Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? What was the circumstance like covering the Saints this week, where it's obviously been so bizarre with the coaches out and then them really not even being home for a month?
You know, it was a little bit back to normal this week, obviously, just because, you go from not having, 8 or 9 coaches to only missing a couple of guys. That obviously changes the preparation process during the week. Although, Sean made it a point to say, well, it wasn't the coaches, it wasn't, any of that last week against Carolina. It was on me. Like, now most head coaches are going to say that, but you did really get the sense that they were trying to flush everything. Sean, I appreciate his willingness to say that and have us kind of run with that as the story of the week. And I think you could also get the sense from talking with Demario Davis, Shannon Spake, our reporter, talked with Cam Jordan and Alvin Kamara. And I think everybody just wanted to be done with this road trip, this impromptu, out of necessity road trip. I think everybody was, you guys probably talked about the Instagram stories and how happy guys were and just, relieved it feels like guys were to get back home, and they played with a sense of urgency this week. I think everything that Sean told us, the things that he was on the lookout for with Jameis, everything that they had in terms of sense for this week of trying to get through this, prepare much better than they did a week ago and get home with a victory and a winning record. All those things kind of came to fruition. So this was a classic Saints bounce back performance that has, I would imagine, been fairly typical of coaches like Sean Payton. We mentioned it on the broadcast, Payton and Belichick, two of the best coming off a bad loss or a game where they felt like they were ill prepared. They never really seemed to put two of those together in back-to-back weeks. So it's kind of what we expected.
Yeah, it's almost like you just looked at my sheet, because I actually had written down, did you expect the bounce back? The two words that you just mentioned there. Adam, when you miss 8 coaches and 5 starters week to week, the margin in the league is so thin. But when you saw what you watched at Carolina and then what we saw yesterday against New England, were you expecting that much of a dramatic improvement?
I'm not sure how much of an improvement I was expecting, but because I think we have a tendency to look at the postscript and be like, all right, well, it's easy to connect the dots from A to B now. They had C.J. Gardner-Johnson playing coverage, and he was excellent in the game against New England. They got Lattimore back. Obviously, that's a major improvement. They had Paulson and Debo playing a little tighter this week compared to last week, where he was playing really far off and kind of giving up the underneath stuff. So scheme-wise, you can say, well, yeah, it fits better because New England's not taking a ton of deep shots. They're kind of keeping things in front of, the Saints are keeping things in front of them for the most part, which is where they're at their best because of Davis and what the nickel can do in Gardner-Johnson. So maybe scheme-wise, it fit a little bit better, but I don't want to assume that. I don't want to make that a causation correlation thing automatically. It may just be because they prepared better. They were more energized. And when Kamara comes out and says we were ill prepared, that carries weight, right? So just seeing a prepared Carolina team ready for what was a limited Mac Jones offense, I think, I guess you could expect a reasonable improvement. I didn't think it was going to be to the extent that which we saw, because I thought maybe New England was going to try to get a little bit more creative offensively. So I didn't know if it was going to be the way, what it was yesterday. It was definitely better than what I was expecting.
Adam Amin is our guest. He was on the call for Saints Patriots. He's on Twitter at Adam Amin. You also mentioned Jameis, which, that's obviously just a lightning rod topic, not only here, but all over the NFL. So, you've seen him for his career. What were your impressions watching him yesterday in person?
I'll say this too, and this is more tongue-in-cheek than anything else, but I'm aware that talking about Jameis is a lightning rod.
Right.
So when you do Saints games now, I think it's going to be all year, because Matt, can I get on a soapbox? We're
Please.
friends.
Absolutely.
This is you and me. This is just you and me talking.
Right.
I understand this is going to sound like whiny national broadcaster talk. It probably is. So if you want to disregard it, listening, feel free. I understand. It's just me getting something off my chest. We frame Jameis Winston throws, including the Callaway touchdown, as dangerous, risky, things of that nature. And then we were criticized a little bit by a small vocal minority of Saints fans. Oh, well, you don't talk about Mac Jones that way, which is a lie, because when he threw the near pick to C.J. Gardner-Johnson with the final minute of the game, the words out of my mouth were dangerous ball.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not playing double standards here. I call it as I see it. And I called Jameis Winston's first NFL game. And I remember the pass that he threw to Cody Sensabaugh that got taken the other way against the Tennessee Titans. I saw it from interception 1. I know what this kid does. He is a risk taker. Now, if you want to frame him as Brett Favre, feel free to call him a gunslinger, but he doesn't have the pedigree. He doesn't have the starts that Favre did, and he doesn't have the pedigree. He doesn't have enough of a touchdown to interception ratio at this point in his career, 70-plus starts in, to be able to make that claim. So to me, he's a risk taker in a bad way, and when Sean Payton tells us that he needs to be better about it and that the throws are dangerous, and when Sean Payton comes out after the game and says, we were fortunate to get away with that one, and Jameis Winston essentially apologizes to Sean Payton for the throw, I'd like to think that we're not framing him inaccurately, because there's context between Mac Jones making career start 3 and Jameis Winston making career start 70, whatever it was. So that's why it's going to be framed that way. And in fact, Shannon's report out of the gate was, Sean Payton said, anytime Jameis Winston throws an interception from here on out, somebody is going to stand up and question him because he threw 30 interceptions in a season. So that is going to, rightfully so, as a paid professional in the NFL, going to follow him for a while until he proves to you, me, every Saints fan at home, and every team around the league otherwise. Does that mean he didn't play well yesterday? Absolutely not. He played much sharper. He handled communication far better. He did take fewer risks, and he did throw. It wasn't like every fifth throw was a bad one. He had accuracy. There were some bullets in there. But the throw to Troutman with 3 defenders around, the throw to Callaway, which worked out great, and you should be praised for getting the touchdown, but you're going to have to worry about that going forward. These are the things that are entering my head, Mark Schlereth's head, whoever's calling your Saints games for the next 12 weeks, 15 weeks, whatever it is. Everybody's going to be thinking the same thing. So it's going to be a week-to-week litmus test for your starting quarterback, as long as he is the starting quarterback, and that is rightfully earned based on his pedigree, his reputation, and the improvements that he is trying to make in this offense.
Bro, that's the most fired up I've ever heard you. Don't let those Twitter trolls get you.
No, I got you. And like I said, it's
no,
I
you're
hope
right.
you guys understand that's just me. Like, that was on my mind because this is how I swear to you, I don't think about this job at a surface level. I think about the job that I do for you. I want to do a good job for when I have the Saints, and I'm sure we'll see them again at some point. And we saw them plenty last year. I want to do a good job for you guys. You have a great football team. You have a great run organization. I want good things to happen to you guys. And so far, 2-1, you'll take that, right?
Man.
2
Absolutely.
good games from Jameis Winston equaling 2 wins, and 1 bad game led to a loss. That's how the NFL works. And so far, you guys are 2-1, and it's not a bad place to be.
Didn't you have the Denver game last year? Didn't we talk after that? When it was like the practice squad receiver playing quarterback. I mean,
Kendall Hinton, the practice squad wide receiver. Jeff Driscoll's out. Blake Bortles out. Drew Lock out. Bunch of coaches out. They were thinking about signing one of their assistant coaches to play quarterback the night before the game. So,
wait, is that real?
That was a dramatic turn.
Wait, is that real? Were they really going to sign an assistant the night before the game?
That one of their quality control guys is a former UCF quarterback, had been knew the system enough, and I think he was part of the scout team or whatever, or would help run the scout team. The NFL said you cannot do that. You cannot add a coach to become a player. So they had to move Kendall Hinton from the practice squad to the elevated roster as QB.
I don't know if I just don't remember that, or if I didn't know that or forgot it or whatever, but that's a crazy anecdote to that story that I just didn't recall. Adam Amin's with us. A couple more minutes on Twitter, at Adam Amin. Fox play-by-play announcer, had Saints and Patriots yesterday. So the Saints are 2-1. And I keep impressing upon our audience here, Adam, 2-1 with a roster that is still sans some of its best players, Michael Thomas, David Onyemata, more like Will Lutz is going to come back. When you look at the Saints at 2-1 and you realize who is still going to join this roster, how much better, what's the gap for this team right now?
Listen, the defense is still there, and I framed the game yesterday as such. Like these are still teams that have leaned on their defenses, not just in games this year to win, but for a long period of time. You know, New England and New Orleans have had top 10 scoring defense for the better part of a decade now. So even through the Breeze and Brady years, these are defensive-minded teams that play a hard-nosed style and are very athletic at every level. You have all-pro caliber players at every level. So, you know, you got Cam Jordan, you got Demario Davis, you got a Malcolm Jenkins, you got a Marshawn Lattimore. These are guys who can have an all-pro type season just about any year, and then you add the depth behind them. The defensive line rotation looked really solid. Roach had a good play against Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
He and Tuttle did a decent job in their split snaps. So when Onyemata gets back, that's a big boost, obviously. We saw what happened in the defensive backfield. They struggled last week because they didn't have their nickel, and that nickel position, you know this, is more and more important as spread has become more apparent. 4 wide looks, now having to decipher a 2 tight end set. A lot of what New England ran yesterday is 2 tights. So C.J. Gardner-Johnson becomes that much more of a focal point defensively. And look what happened. When he was out, they struggled. When he was back in, he made impact. So I have this sense that defensively, no matter what, this is going to be one of the better teams in the NFC. If they can hang offensively with the Tampa Bay, who I know struggled a little bit against L.A., but you know that's a really good Tampa Bay offense. Their offensive line's great. The health of this offense scares me. If Teron Armstead is going to be out I know he's probably not. I think I saw he was fine. But if he ends up dealing with injury again, Andrus Peat, if he stays healthy, if McCoy can come back, then this is going to be an offense that's going to be a little harder to deal with. If they can bully, I think Mark said it yesterday, if they can bully people the way they did yesterday, and I'd really think they bullied New England for the most part on both sides in the trenches. If they can continue to do that, I think they'll be fine. Jameis is going to lose you a game at some point, I think, based on track record. Now, if he improves, great. But Jameis might lose you a game or two. But if the offensive line is good, Jameis is going to win you a game or two as well. And maybe a game that you don't expect to win, or maybe you have some early struggles in. I think he can still win you a game if that offensive line plays the way it did yesterday.
Man, that 75-yard drive was it was just gorgeous to watch at the end. The 3rd and 7 conversion to Deontay Harris, and then Taysom Hill leaping dudes. It was a beautiful sight when they needed it.
Well, that throw, again, we talked about it, man. I know Jameis had a couple of risky passes, and we called him out as such, but when he bullets passes in there, that conversion to Harris was a money throw. He saw Adam Troutman sitting in a zone at one point and drilled the ball in there, it was the Stills ball.
Stills, yeah.
That throw to Stills was a money ball. So he's making much better decisions already week to week. I'm just saying, like I said, going back to belabor the point and put a bow on it, that it's going to be a week to week test. And if he continues to improve, you're going to see 1 or 2, maybe a game at the end of the season. But it's 2 or 3 less than what you saw last week, or 2 or 3 less than what you saw when he was running it in Tampa Bay. I have high hopes. I think at its best, this is going to be a good offense.
Before you go, I have to ask, because you were in New England, and obviously all eyes in the NFL are going to be on this week. I mean, come on. It's like, how do you not? So what was it like, man? I mean, there has to at least be some ear-to-ground chatter about Brady coming back to New England this week.
Oh, for sure. And I think Belichick handled it well. There was very little talk, I think, among the people around New England, around like the organization, like the players and stuff. I just don't think guys look that far ahead. Yeah, they might know peripherally, or they've got their phone like, oh yeah, Brady's coming next week. But that's not going to deter you from a game plan or anything like that. I don't think, coaches like Bill and Sean don't let their teams really get into those modes, I think, for the most part. But you talk to fans, you talk to anybody that is a writer for the team, you talk to broadcasters, that's all anybody's worried about. And if they had won yesterday, then maybe it'd be a little bit of a different narrative. Oh, Mac Jones, he's off to a 2-1 start. Instead, you've seen the offense sputter a little bit, and now Brady's going to be coming in off a loss. Same mentality as Belichick and Peyton. He's not a guy who typically puts bad performances together consecutively. So what kind of fire is he going to come in with? There's going to be a lot of emotion. And if things play out the way the story has already been kind of, written out for the first couple of drafts, it might be an impressive performance from Tom Brady next Sunday night.
He is Adam Amin, Fox Sports, on Twitter at Adam Amin. Always good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here. Hey, man, always appreciate you making time. I'm sure you'll have the Saints again, and I'll bother you again, but we do appreciate it.
Never bother, brother. Always a pleasure.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.